What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of 30 in 30. And today we're going to talk about how you should structure your supplements during prep. Now, I feel like a lot of us should know what to do with our supplements during prep, or at least our coaches know what to do with our supplements during prep. But more recently, I've been getting a lot of questions from people who even have coaches on how to structure their supplements in order to optimize their contest prep. So I figured I would make this video to kind of help everyone else understand, or at least what I would recommend as how you structure your supplements during prep. Now, in order to structure them properly, obviously you have to have your shows kind of roughly picked out at least, or at least a time frame where your shows picked out, some ones that you are looking to do. So it's essentially easy, or at least in my opinion, it's easy to structure your supplements during prep, because all you have to do is start from the date of your last show and work backwards. Now, starting at the problem, essentially, which is the show, and then working backwards is the way that I like to do it, just because those weeks leading up to the show, and of course show week, are going to be the most important, in my opinion, for you to optimize your supplement regimen. Now, why we need to start at the end and work backwards is because some of the supplements, at least the most important ones, in my opinion, need to be cycled on and off in order to be effective. So this three supplements, the three supplement categories that we're going to be focusing on today are going to be hormonal support, are going to be fat burners, and are going to be glucose utilization agents, or more commonly referred to as GDAs. So those are the three that we're going to focus on, and of course, you could take your BCAs, your pre-workouts, stuff like that, your protein powder throughout all of prep. But we're only focusing right now on the ones that need to be cycled on and off. So those are the big three that I mentioned previously. So let's focus on that last, let's say 8 weeks leading up to your show. We know that we want to be optimized in all those three categories. So do we want to be on some kind of a fat burner? Potentially, depending on where we're at. But what kind of fat burner do we want to be on at that point in time? Especially if we're going to be trying to squeak out a few extra pounds. In my opinion, having a fat burner that is a little bit more stimulant based will be a little bit more effective at the end. And I'll tell you why and how we're structuring them as we get a little bit deeper. A GDA, obviously we want to be utilizing our carbs as efficiently as possible by the end of prep, especially those last 8 weeks. And it's also going to help with our peak if we are on a GDA itself. So we want to make sure that that's in the last 8 weeks. And then, of course, we want to have our hormones optimized during that last 8 weeks. So we're going to try to be on as many as we can without any overlap from previous weeks. So in those last 8 weeks, we're going to want to make sure that if we're a guy, we're released on some kind of a test booster, and then some kind of testosterone support, or estrogen balance, anti-cortisol kind of a thing those last 8 weeks as well. But let's dive into how we're going to schedule our supplements throughout the entirety of our prep. So if we start from the end game, which is, let's say, those last 8 weeks, because typically a lot of these supplements we take for 8 weeks at a time and have to take 4 weeks off in order for them to be proven effective, if not 8 weeks on, 8 weeks off. So if we are on a high stim, fat burner at the end of prep, and then we take our GDA, we're going to have to come off of that GDA 8 weeks out, and then our hormone supplements, we're going to cycle those on and off. One key thing about our hormone supplements that we're going to be taking, hormone support supplements that we're going to be taking through the entirety of our prep, is we want to make sure that there's no overlap in our 8-week cycles. So for instance, if you're a guy and you're taking a testosterone booster that has D-aspartic acid for its main testosterone boosting ingredient, you're not going to want to take that for 8 weeks and then jump on another one that has D-aspartic acid for the 8 weeks again, because if you keep taking it over and over and over again, it's not going to be as effective if you take it for 8 weeks and then take 4 weeks off, or take it for 8 weeks and then take 8 weeks off. So we want to make sure with our hormone support supplements that there's no overlap with our ingredients. Secondly, let's talk about the fat burners now. So if we have a fat burner, like I said, a stim-based fat burner, I differentiated that between a stim-based fat burner and a non-stim-based fat burner. So ideally, what I like to do, and this is what I've been recommending for a lot of my clients, is we don't even necessarily start prep with a fat burner. We just try to let the diet do the initial work during, let's say, like the first 8 weeks. And granted, you do have to work back and see how all the math comes out, depending on how many weeks you're going to prep for. But this is roughly the way that I use my fat burners during prep. So I start off prep, no fat burner, 4 to 8 weeks. Then we jump on a non-stim fat burner. Obviously, our calories are still high, so we don't necessarily need the stimulants to help us get through our day. So we run that for 8 weeks. We take a 4-week break off of all stimulants, or all fat burners for that matter. And then you could jump on a stimulant-based fat burner depending on the dosage now. Now, what I've recommended, at least so far this year, is that, for instance, like Core Burn Ultra, you could actually have the dose and it still be pretty effective if you take half a dose. So what I'm doing for my clients is recommending they take a half dose of Burn Ultra for 8 weeks, and then they come off for 4 weeks. And then we could run Shred, which is our non-stim based fat burner, or we could just once again take 4 weeks completely off and then hit it hard those last 8 weeks of prep. So that's how I like to start, because at the end, obviously with the calories coming down, our energy is just not there, our performance slacks a little bit in the gym. So if we slowly increase our caffeine intake or our stimulants over our prep, that's more beneficial than starting high stim and then finishing even higher stim, because we all know that we can't take too much caffeine in the course of the day without having negative side effects. So we want to start low on the caffeine consumption and slowly build. So picture that as you start your prep, no stimulants as far as fat burners, going to a non-stim, maybe a half dose, and then the full dose by the end of our prep. Now, with our GDAs, once again, we just kind of work back in 8-week chunks as we go from the length of our shows. So we'll take those 8 final weeks. We want to be on a GDA, 12 weeks out. So we're going to get off for 4 weeks and then get back on for 8 weeks, and so on and so forth. I recommend you don't necessarily need to come off for a full 8 weeks with your typical GDA. You'll be totally fine. I feel like a lot of people actually don't cycle them, which is a huge mistake, because like I said, they're going to become ineffective over time if you just keep ramming them into your body. Your receptors are just not going to take it and be efficient with it. So we want to make sure that we're cycling that 8 weeks on, 4 weeks off. With our testosterone boosting agents and stuff like that as well, like I said before, we want to make sure we're cycling that in 8-week cycles. That's what I typically recommend. But now, more importantly, the anti-cortisol, typically there's only like 1 or 2 products out there, and they have a lot of overlap. So with that, you're only going to be taking that within 1 cycle, and then you'll have to get off. But when you take an anti-cortisol product, you want to make sure that for sure you're going to be taking that in the last 8 weeks of your prep, because that's going to have the most benefit to your physical appearance. So guys, when you're structuring your contest prep, as far as your supplements go, look at the end date of your show. And then, and I would recommend just actually writing this on paper or using an Excel document like I do, and that way you can make changes along the way. But you want to structure it, in 4 and 8 week blocks, where you can know where, okay, this is where I'm going to be taking, my high stim fat burner. This is where I'm going to be taking my non-stim fat burner. This is where I'm not going to be taking any fat burners at all. And of course, you do have to take into account, your diet breaks and reverse periods and stuff like that, which is, even more information and that we can't really cover today, just because we're focusing on supplements, and that's a little bit higher level, which it involves a lot more work. But think about this, you want to optimize those last 8 weeks for sure, and you want to structure your testosterone boosting agents with no overlap, you could run those back to back if there is no overlap, but you want to make sure that you are taking the recommended time off of the supplements that need to be cycled, because, you know, sure, if you start taking them the first week of prep and then you run them for 8 to 10 weeks, yeah, they might be beneficial those first 8 to 10 weeks, but after that, there's going to be some diminishing returns afterwards. So we want to make sure that we're cycling on and off the products that we need to. If you guys have any questions on particular products, even the core products, because still some people are a little bit confused on how to structure their products, please shoot me a message. I'll be happy to help you kind of lay out a plan or give some recommendations. Even if they're not core products, I mean, I could definitely look at the ingredient profile and make some recommendations on what to put together and how to separate things. So guys, hopefully you found this video informative. Hopefully this helps you in your next contest prep, structure your supplements properly. Tune in tomorrow for another episode of 30 and 30. I'll see you then.